All right, so my name is John Herman.
And I'm Jillian Thiel.
We are, in fact, from a improvisational theater and comedy troupe called Stranger Than Fiction. We are New Hampshire based. All right, make eye contact with me once you're done. Not in a creepy way. All right. I said not in a creepy way. Okay. All right, so let's talk about storytelling really briefly, and then we're going to get right into an activity. First of all, everybody has heard, like, every story has a beginning, middle, and end. Is anyone who said that originally? Crickets. Okay. Aristotle, actually, in the 4th century. So we have actually committed to this concept of storytelling for thousands of years. And it wasn't until 1863 that a German playwright,
Freytag.
yes, Gustav Freytag, basically broke it down into 5 pieces of a story. Does anyone know the 5 pieces? Jill, what are the 5 pieces of a story?
Exposition, inciting incident, that's the domino that gets the ball rolling. Rising action, that's the slope of the roller coaster. We build up to the climax, usually something like a shark blows up. Then there's falling action and the very fancy French word denouement.
What does denouement mean?
And.
What does the denouement feel like?
Conclusion.
It's my favorite part, so let's talk about it. The denouement is basically your story's over, but then there's that little piece at the end that's just kind of like the doo-doo-doo, like, and it makes you feel good, and then the credits.
The killer is hauled off, the cops' lights are flashing in the background.
Right, they're like,
okay.
Don't worry, trooper, you'll do better next year. Or something. I don't know. Okay, we really just have to unlock what's already inside us. We have been told stories ever since we were little, and you know what? Our parents were told stories, and their parents were told stories, generations of oral storytellers, and human culture is full of storytelling. We don't have to tell you what storytelling is. You know it. It's just about unlocking what you already know, okay? All right, so I'm going to make the claim that all of these things actually work to one means, and the other session got it, and you guys didn't. What do you think all those things are working towards?
An end.
An end. You must have an end. No. Any of these, we can be devil's advocate and say, like, we can attack any of them. I think, personally, a good story, and then we're going to try and prove it, needs to engage the audience emotionally, okay? Whether it is through humor or horror or, like, thought or something, it is some sort of affected emotion, okay? So I want you to keep that in mind. With everything, it could really have good characters. You know what? These characters are horrible, but you know what? Something about this production, I'm thinking about it. Like, it touched me in some way. Or you know what? The dialogue was horrible, but it made me think of Grandma. And
I find that when teaching, the books that my students get into most are the ones that they can relate to, they can engage with, they can somehow find a piece of it inside of themselves.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, half of you are shaking your heads. This is something you already knew. It just needs to be said out loud, and you're like, oh, right. Really, we don't need anything other than some sort of emotional effect. All right. So take a look back into your circle. So now we're going to take you through some story creating activities through collaboration. And we'll debrief each of these activities and give you variations. So this activity is simply a one-word story. And I imagine several of you have done activities like this. What's going to happen is the tallest person in your group is going to start a story with one word. This could be the. It could be a. It could be, the word could be once, to imply once upon a time. But whatever happens, you're then going to go to the left, and the next person is going to contribute one word to this story. Then the next person contributes one word. So for example, it could be, there was a girl who one day decided she was a dragon, and and this is how these stories go often. Your goal, though, is to make it 3 times around the circle. Beginning, middle, and end. We'll do Aristotle's version of storytelling, okay? Let me call it out first, and you can do this when you're working with kids. it's going to be a train crash the first time. You're going to feel awkward. Someone's going to say a word, and then the next person is just going to be stunned. And not know what to say. Okay? You have to think outside the box to survive in this activity. One person cannot save the story. It has to be collaborative. So this is not just storytelling, this is team building. Several things can happen. Someone may say something that's completely non sequitur.
Macaroni!
Said the girl. Like, you can always think outside the box and save any story. So you can talk about it and debrief it after any train wreck and say, like, what happened? What could she have said? Like, and that sometimes that meta conversation afterwards is just as important as the activity. The kids will get into it. They'll also, if you do this as just an introduction or just as a warm-up or getting to know you, every single time you meet, you're going to find they're going to get a lot better. And they're going to be like, whoa, we were horrible last week. I am ready for this one-word story. Yeah, the. Because you can't be ready for it. Like, you have to support each other. Because you're just saying apple.
Yeah, and I have found kids that I'll teach them this and they'll play it on like a bus ride or anything else, and the more that they practice it, the better that they get at thinking outside the box.
Yep. So variations, you can add, crazy, 2 words. The more you restrict them initially, you're going to find that adding words actually builds confidence. It's a very simple way to build confidence in a group that's a little awkward with these sorts of activities. Is like, make it really, really restrictive. Like, you can't make a mistake. And then you give them the ability to say a little bit more and express themselves a little bit more.